Money decisions don't have to be either or. With Bank of America, they can be yes and. Like yes to sunny vacations and rainy day funds. Can our digital tools and guidance help you create the future you want? Yes. And help you keep enjoying today, too. Do more with a bank that asks, what would you like the power to do? Explore our tips and more at bankofamerica.com/yes and.
Being a marketer's no sweat. You just have to manage dozens of channels, launch hundreds of campaigns, score thousands of leads, and okay, fine, it's a lot of sweat. Unless you have HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools to help you do all that and more. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
From the field to the film room to the war room, we've got you covered every step of the way as the road to the draft starts right now. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Armchair Scouts. I am your host, Shane Haff, and you can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. I'm joined today by my co-host and fellow draft enthusiast, Dibes. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Be sure to check out his podcast, Party on Broad. Dibes, how are you doing today?
Doing well, man. Getting into the meat of this thing. Week 10 already. I feel like this season is flying. Penn State, can they finally get over the hump? Can James Franklin finally get over the hump against a top team? I think it's really possible.
All right. We are going to get to that game here in just a moment. I'm also joined by his co-host on Party on Broad, Ryan. Give him a follow on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Ready to talk about our game of the week. It is a good one.
All right. I'm ready. I'm glad to be back. My son played fall baseball this fall, and I was like, he played it last year, and we had a game or two on a Tuesday night, but it was mostly Thursday nights. And then the schedule came up this year, and it was like all Tuesday nights. So we've been shuffling podcasts around. I've been missing shows. I don't think I've been on this show for like 3 weeks. So it's good to be back. Good to talk some college football with you guys. And as we normally do, we're going to give you guys an Eagles draft profile. Somebody we think the Eagles might be interested in. We'll profile them for you. Tell them where you can watch them play this weekend. And then we're going to get to our game of the week. And it is a good one this week, a top 5 matchup. But before we get there, Ryan, I'll throw it to you first. Who is the Eagles potential prospect, I should say, that you're profiling this week?
Well, I'm going to go with a tight end. I know, shocker. And that's been rising up the boards. And that's Harold Fanning Jr. At a Bowling Green. This dude right now is absolutely lighting up the college football world. I believe right now he is 4th overall in receiving yards. He is absolutely just really making a name for himself, including, a fantastic game last week against Toledo, 6 for 74 and a touchdown in the victory over Toledo. Listen, Fanning kind of was a name that I personally wasn't all that familiar with earlier in the year. But as a junior, he earned first team All MAC honors last year after catching 44 balls with 625 and 6 touchdowns. He's honestly just a guy who has been steadily improving throughout his collegiate career. He's got an amazing burst off the line, which really kind of surprises defenders. And he's able to get vertical, and he's very consistent when winning one-on-one battles in routes, especially against linebackers. They seem to kind of have no chance against him. He's got amazing hands. If he gets a fingernail on it, seems like he's going to be pulling it in. And he's got great ball tracking skills as well. This is a guy who runs about a 4.6 40 as well. He definitely has some sneaky speed there that really helps in the yak game as well. So I will say, yeah, he's certainly not the biggest guy, but he does play strong. He's not the greatest blocker, but I feel like his his technique is pretty sound. So I think with a little bit of coaching, I think next level, I don't see that being an issue. And honestly, he could use a little bit more kind of upgrading on some of his route tree. But honestly, this is a guy that you're not going to really see a lot, unfortunately, because of Bowling Green. But he really does have himself quite the year already. 947 yards, 66 catches, and 6 touchdowns, already surpassing what he did last year. So yeah, this is definitely a guy to watch out for Bowling Green as they go up against Central Michigan this upcoming week. So definitely a guy I'm going to keep my eye on and track throughout the draft process.
Yeah, if you are watching Bowling Green versus Central Michigan, let it be for an Eagles too, not because that's the only game you can get, because that doesn't sound very entertaining. But a tight end too, that could be entertaining for sure. Dives, I'll throw it to you. Ryan is having to reach way out here for tight ends now. We're going to have to let him talk about non-tight ends, but not yet. Not yet. Dives, who do you got here for your Eagles target?
This is going to be one of those guys that we'll have to hope pulls a Quinyon Mitchell or a Jalen Carter-esque drop in the draft, because I think he's going to be a top 10 pick when all said and done. I think that's right.
It is.
Give me Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M. I want to make sure we hit on all of these top edge rushers, and I'm surprised we haven't touched on them yet. Texas A&M, they're 7-1, 5-0 in the SEC after taking down LSU 38-23 after trailing 17-7 at the half. And a huge part of the Aggies' success has been their elite front seven and defensive line, and the top guy on that is Nick Scorton. Against LSU, Nick Scorton had 7 pressures, a sack, 6 hurries, 3 tackles, and 4 run stops. Those numbers are fine and dandy, but when you consider those numbers were against Will Campbell, who is widely regarded as a top 10 pick in this year's draft. He's a left tackle. He's a beast. That's wild. A big part of Nick Scorton's game is his physical tools, solid size, great upper body strength, great athlete. I think this guy's the quintessential modern edge rusher that would fit really well with Vic Fangio. He's got the frame to be more of a traditional hand in the ground edge rusher, but through his time at Purdue and now with the Aggies, we've seen him drop back in coverage. We've seen him be a stand-up outside linebacker. His bread and butter, I think, in the NFL will be a true defensive end, but I think he's a better pass rusher than run defender at this point. Definitely raw, but that's okay. This guy's only going to be 20 years old come April. So he's a guy with a lot of upside, a lot of tools. I think he could be a top 10 pick. And Nick Scorton goes up against South Carolina this week, who is 4-3, and they rank 133rd in college football in sacks allowed, 130th in tackles for loss allowed. Look for Nick Scorton to have a huge game against South Carolina.
All right. I'm going to go with another guy that can rush the passer a little bit. I'm going to go with edge rusher Abdul Carter out of Penn State. And you can watch him in our game of the week. You don't have to go to Bowling Green, Central Michigan. This is a game if you're watching college football, you're probably watching this one already. But keep an eye on Abdul Carter. He was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, played in 12 games as a freshman. Had 41 tackles, 10 assists, 34 stops. He also had a pass breakup and 18 pressures with 8 sacks. He's 6'3", 260-ish pounds, reportedly ran 4.48 40. Last year, he had 33 tackles. He had 31 run stops, 3 pass breakups, and an interception. He also had 27 pressures and 4 sacks. That earned him a first-team All-Big Ten selection. This year, he's playing exclusively as an edge rusher. He was more of an off-ball linebacker last year, and so he already has more pass rushing snaps this season than he did all of last year. And he's got 4 sacks and 21 pressures with 20 stops. He's just an impressive athlete. Bruce Feldman put him on his freaks list for his 4.48 40 time, 4.35 shuttle, a 10.7 broad jump, and power cleaning 350 pounds. And you see that on the field. He wins with speed and burst. He's got great agility and change of direction ability. So I think he can definitely develop some counter moves off of that with those change of direction abilities. Now, I don't think he has them yet. He's going to need to develop that. He needs to get better with his hands, but he's a high motor player. Specifically for the Eagles, he could be a great fit as an edge rusher for them because he's got the athleticism and the coverage skills to be a bonus as a guy dropping into coverage. And, you know, we see the Eagles drop a Josh Sweat or a Nolan Smith into coverage, and they're not real effective doing that. This is what Abdul Carter did for years as an off-ball linebacker. So he'd be a big plus there. He's not great in the run game. His block recognition is a work in progress. He's really slow to recognize pullers and doesn't get into good position to take them on. He plays with a narrow base against the run, which makes him weaker than necessary, and he's already a light player. And so Penn State takes him off the field on rundowns at times. But this is a guy he's going to be a first-round draft pick. He's got all the athletic upside in the world, and you know he's got some skills as an off-ball linebacker if the edge rusher thing just never develops. So I think he's a guy that if you have a plan for how you're going to develop him, what you want him to be, he could be a really impactful player at the next level.
Yeah, his athleticism is Parson-esque. When you see his dip and bend, his suddenness off the line, his athleticism is going to get him in the top 10. I would be shocked if he's not a top 10 pick come April.
Yeah. All right. Let's kick it over now to our game of the week, which is going to feature Abdul Carter. Number 4, Ohio State are 3.5 point favorites on the road at number 3, Penn State at noon Saturday on Fox. And so you got the lower ranked team on the road as a road favorite. And there's some extenuating circumstances there. Penn State quarterback Drew Aller was injured last week and is questionable for this weekend. It seems like it's going to be a game day decision for them. So that's why the line is the way it is. If he's unable to go, they're going to have to rely on their backup quarterback, a strong rushing attack led by Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. Ryan, talk to me about this game. What are you thinking?
Yeah, listen, you absolutely said it. It's gonna completely hinge on Aller and his health. I think if there's even a shot that he can play, he's out there. The Buckeyes right now, though, do have an amazing defense. And not only that, but they are playing amazing at the right time right now. They are, they obviously allowed just 273 yards of offense to Nebraska, but, was able to kind of bend a bit and clamp down when needed. Obviously they're right behind Texas as far as points per game. And Penn State honestly doesn't really have that flashy of an offense and they don't really score that much to begin with. So, and we don't really know much about the backup. His name is Prabula. Am I saying that right? Maybe. I don't know. Listen, obviously he did an admirable job when he was called upon, but the Ohio State defense is just honestly, I think just too good. And if Aller is not in there, I think Ohio State wins this kind of going away. But yeah, I mean, if Aller's in there though, it's kind of a boring offense, but it's methodical. It's run heavy, and they rely on their tight end and kind of slowly move the ball down, and that's the way that they're going to be able to beat the Ohio State Buckeye defense. And to be perfectly honest, this is for any Big Ten fan, this is many people's game of the year every single year in the Big Ten. I absolutely love Buckeyes versus Nittany Lions. So this is going to be a little too close to call, and honestly, it's pretty hinging on Aller.
Yeah. Dibes, what do you want to add on to that about this game?
Yeah, just touching on Penn State. Obviously, the biggest question is who starts at quarterback. I disagree. The Penn State offense isn't elite, but I don't consider it boring. I think Andy Kotelnicki has definitely opened up that offense quite a bit, and I think the biggest name to watch on that offense, and we've already covered him on the show, I think, Tyler Warren, absolutely amazing. He is the real deal. And if the Eagles are sitting there, the back end of round one, he's available, you absolutely make that call. He's been Drew Aller's favorite target so far this season. He's got 47 receptions, 559 yards. That's 25 more receptions and 209 more yards than the team's second lead receiver in Harrison Wallace. This guy's explosive. He can be anywhere on the football field. He's thrown a touchdown pass this season. Just a great athlete. He's not a refined like a Brock Bowers, but he's a similar level of presence. Just an unbelievable mismatch weapon. So there's that. Then you talked about Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, who are arguably the top running back duos in college football. And then you touched on it, Ryan. Like, this Ohio State rush defense is unbelievable. They're arguably, if not the best defense overall in college football. However, the offense has been really struggling. I mean, you start with, Will Howard. He's more of a game manager. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid on this guy. But you look at, their big name running backs in Quinshon Judkins. He's arguably the most complete back in the nation, right there, right up there with Ashton Genty, a guy that can pick up tough yards, break free in the open field. But against Oregon and Nebraska in recent weeks, he's only had 52 total yards on 20 carries. He's only got 2 broken tackles in that span. It's going to be really interesting to watch which ground game truly separates themselves. And I think the biggest difference maker in this one is obviously Jeremiah Smith, who is a unbelievable true freshman. He's the next great one for Ohio State. We talked about Emeka Ibuka and Harrison. Marvin Harrison Jr. and guys like that. He's the next one. He's 6'3", like 215 pounds. He just is unbelievable at winning matchups on those 50-50 balls. He makes highlight reel catches over and over and over again every single week. Smooth route runner, can easily take a screen and take it to the house. He's a guy that like defenses have to account for because he's an elite level talent that can turn momentum in an instant. So keep an eye out on Jeremiah Smith. That's a really good one. And I think that's about it. Caleb Downs. Hold on. Caleb Downs. He's a safety, arguably the best safety in college football, right above Malachi Starks. If you haven't heard of Caleb Downs, you will on Saturday at noon.
Yeah, I will say I know you are hating on Will Howard and have been consistently. I'll give you that. But he grew up a Penn State fan. And
interesting. I didn't know that.
He was very hurt when Penn State never even offered him anything. Not only when he originally went to Kansas State, but in the transfer portal as well. So there's a bit of bad blood, revenge on the mind of Will Howard to prove the Penn State Nittany Lions made a mistake for never choosing him. So I'm just saying, extra motivation is always a great thing. So if Will Howard all of a sudden balls out, we'll know why.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest matchup to watch in this one, we could go on and on. Like, Ohio State's offensive line has definitely looked shaky and stuff. Whatever. But the biggest matchup, without a doubt, is James Franklin versus James Franklin, or James Franklin versus Big Ten. Like, this is it. This is the shtick. Is he's never been able to conquer Ohio State. You know, he's literally he's not beaten. What's that guy? Ryan Day, I think his name.
Ryan Day, yeah.
Of Ohio State. He's never beaten him, and this is, I think, a week where Ohio State's not clicking on all cylinders right now, and it's a shame too, because I talked on Party on Broad. Like, if Penn State had like one elite wide receiver on that squad, like, they could be real contenders. Because right now I definitely think they're a little overrated, but I think it's going to be a very even game, and it's going to be whichever team wins in the trenches. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely, Penn State, the way their schedule has worked out beautifully, this is really the only marquee game on their schedule, let's be honest. And if they can get by Ohio State, they're in the Big Ten championship. I mean, they don't have to face Michigan. They don't have to face any of the many of the big new players in the Big Ten, and Indiana as well, who's coming out of nowhere. But listen, this means a lot for Penn State, and if they can survive Ohio State, Big Ten championship and a spot in the playoffs await them. So there's a lot on the line here.
Yeah, not to mention Ohio State's coming off a narrow win at home against Nebraska, who not a very good football team. Of course, that was the week after they lose to Oregon with the meltdown at the end of that game. But Ohio State has won 7 consecutive matchups with Penn State. They've only allowed over 17 points once this season, and it was to Oregon. So be a tough environment. Well, not tough environment. It's at Penn State. It would be a tough defense for a backup quarterback to be starting at. So I think a lot of it comes down to the health of Drew Aller, which is a really kind of a lame way to end a preview for what should be one of the marquee matchups. Hopefully he's healthy and ready to go.
I will.
Yeah. Anybody have anything else they want to throw out on this game?
To me, and you said it, like 0-7, the last 7 matchups. Like, James Franklin, didn't he just get a contract extension? Like,
probably.
I think he did, and it blows my mind how like they accept that. Like, for a Penn State team that literally recruits their ass off, and then a big part of that is James Franklin. That's why he's there.
Yeah,
that's why he's there.
Over the recruiter and bring in an actual head coach.
Like, you got to get it done. Like, your opportunity
This is the opportunity right now. You've never been ranked higher in the James Franklin era. You need to get this win if you are a Nittany Lion fan. This is it. This is your Super Bowl. You have to win it.
I have so many friends that are Penn State fans, and I feel like I'm more triggered about that than they are. And I don't give a shit about Penn State. I don't care.
They're numb to Michigan beating them all the time. They're numb to Ohio State beating them all the time. Like, it's not the same thing it did, it meant 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to about wrap it up for this episode of the Armchair Scouts. If you guys enjoy this show, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you get every show on the Eagles Pinpool Network feed. We've got 8 full-length shows a week. We've got every weekday morning, Phil has a check down episode, 5 or 10 minutes to get you caught up with what's going on in Eagles land. So you can get all of that. It's all totally free. More Eagles content than you could consume in a week, unless you're like a long haul trucker, I guess. But go smash that subscribe button, download these episodes, listen to them all, and we'll love you for it even more. You can check us out on Twitter. I'm at Shane Half NFL. Dibes is at Mr. Crockpot. Ryan is at Philly Sports PSA. And we will catch you guys next week for another episode of the Armchair Scouts.